covered with schach. What happened with this man? This person, when he made his sukkah, he left open the beginning of the sukkah. Let's say let's say as a wall. Let's say here we have the eastern wall of the sukkah, and by the eastern wall, right on top of the wall, he left empty space. And the empty space was, it's air. You could see the heavens through that empty space. And the problem was he left a space. And how wide did this space go? It went 3 tfachim. 3 tfachim, we had about a width of 9 inches from the end, from the wall, towards the inside of the sukkah. You had 9 inches wide, 9 to 12 inches wide of empty space. And then after that was a kosher schach. Right? So if you look at that picture in the art scroll, picture number 1 on the top. Number 1 on the top is this empty space. That's empty space on the right top corner. And the rest is schach. But you see that the schach is a distance does not reach the other end. See that in the picture? And therefore, we have a problem here. And we look, and then what we say is, since this 3 tfachim of empty space, I don't know if you want to send to the group that we're on. Right, they're on the right-hand side, which what that does is it disconnects the wall, that right wall, it disconnects it from the sukkah. You cannot, that right wall facing us, to us, that right wall no longer is connected to the sukkah because it's too far away to be connected. If facing us, right? If the schach is on the left facing us, right? Then we're good. Within 3 tfachim, then that would be good, because we would say that the wall, we would say less than 3 tfachim would connect. We say lavud. It would be as if it's connected if it's less than 3 tfachim. Halachically, whether you should sit under that area or not, that's a different question. But it would definitely not invalidate the sukkah if you would have a space less than 3 tfachim from the schach to that wall. The issue here is when you have a space of 3 tfachim or more, that space, what it does is it creates a disconnect between that wall and the rest of the sukkah. Now, if you notice in the picture, the sukkah is a 3-wall sukkah. With a 3-wall sukkah, generally it's a kosher sukkah if you have a 3-wall sukkah. Now, but if you would have had a 4-wall sukkah, if let's say the entrance of the sukkah would have also been a wall, correct? The entrance here in the sukkah is it's totally open. But if that entrance would have been a wall, so even if we would have the picture, the way the picture has it over here, that you have created a distance of 3 tfachim from the schach, if there's a 4th wall, now, if there's a 4th wall, it's possible the sukkah would be kosher. Why? Because the issue here, when you have only a 3-wall sukkah, and you have a separation of 3 tfachim of empty space, what that empty space does is it cuts away as if it knocks out that wall, that we don't have that wall there, and you have this empty space. Now, and what happens when your right wall is no longer there? You're left with 2 walls, the wall to the left and the wall in the back. So that's only 2 walls. That's a problem. But if the sukkah would have had 4 walls and you knocked out the right wall, but then you'll still have 3 walls left. As long as the 3 walls, so then you would have been, then there's room, then you would maybe have a kosher sukkah left because you have 3 walls left. in this particular picture, no, I'm saying you definitely would have 3 walls left if you started with 4 walls, and you created a distance of empty space from the right wall to the schach. What you in essence did, you knocked out that wall, because that wall is not connected here. But you still will have the wall on the left, the wall in the back, and the wall in the front, if you would have had a 4th wall. So there's always advantages of making a sukkah with 4 walls. Like our common custom is, we generally don't make a sukkah with 3 walls. How many walls do we? I mean, practically in our climate, the weather that we live in, you don't want an open wall, because it's going to be cold, and all other elements. What goes in, what could be blowing into your sukkah. If the sukkah is a 3 halachic point of view, you're going to go ahead and you're putting yourself in a much greater position. Good morning, Shimon. Good morning. We have the Gemara. You can take any Gemara you want. We are on Yud Zayin Amar Aleph, 17a. Welcome. Okay. So here's case 1 of the Mishnah. Hirchik es hasichuch min ha'tefanot. You went ahead and you distanced the schach from the walls. Shlosha tvachim. You created a distance of 3 tvachim, which means there was an airspace between the wall and the schach of 3 tvachim. So psula. So we say that sukkah is invalid, because you're left only with 2 walls. Now, case 2 in the Mishnah. You hear the case? Case 2. If you have a house and the roof broke, right? Let's say you have a 1-story house. Now, if the roof breaks and opens up to the sky, because it's not a 2-floor house, it's a 1-story house. And now, what happened? You put in the hole that broke, in the part of the ceiling that broke, you decided to put schach. You filled it in with schach. So what's the halacha on such a case? If you look at picture number 2, right? Picture number 2, the lower left column, right? I see, Shimon, you have that picture? You have the house. This is a house, but this house, you see in the middle of the roof, you got schach. You place schach in the middle of your roof, right, Mr. Haver? Adam, you got it?
You're allowed to do that?
You're allowed to do that, but the question is, what's the issue? The issue is, if the whole the ceiling was removed, and it said, "Welcome back. We're so happy that you're here."
What is the
And
Rabbi? What is the cooking?
right, so that's what the Mishnah is going to say. The issue, if the whole roof came off, and instead you go ahead and you recover the roof with schach, 100% it's kosher. You're allowed to use the walls of your house for a sukkah. If you make your ceiling of your house, you build it in a way that the ceiling removes. It's a movable ceiling. So you remove your ceiling, you put in schach, it's 100% kosher. What's the issue here? The issue here is that the schach did not cover the whole roof. You didn't play the ceiling, did not cover the whole ceiling. Again, it's a 1-story house. So if you look at the picture on the bottom, picture number 2, you see the schach is in the middle, but on the perimeters around the schach is still the ceiling of the original house. The ceiling of the original house is not kosher schach. A ceiling of a house is not valid to be a schach. It's not kosher schach. It wasn't made for schach. It's not kosher materials. It's not kosher for schach. Okay? One area. So we are on Yud Zayin Amar Aleph, 17a. with schach. So it depends. It depends because what's the issue here? Now, in order to be kosher, first of all, you need an area of schach that's 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim, because the minimum size of the sukkah is 7 tefachim, which is about 28 inches by 28 inches, which is very small size area. But the issue here is you need walls. A sukkah requires walls, and if the schach,
How come it's something area? How come it's something static?
how come what's
It's a wall.
right? You have to have walls.
Temporary walls.
Yeah, but walls, good enough walls that don't fall down, good enough walls that don't flap, right? You need to have walls. The walls can be made out of any material, but the issue here is,
I have a question.
yes,
If you represent the Sukkah as something temporary,
right,
yes, to take us out from our home, so now you bring the home to the Sukkah. The
okay,
wall
very good.
has to be with the public, not the-
Very good. So let's explain the point. You can't fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah by using your house, by going your house ceiling as a sukkah. Even if the house ceiling, it would be materials that are kosher for schach, because you have to leave your house. It has to be something that's made. Good morning, Dr. Navid. There has to be something that you have to leave your house to go to a sukkah.
Okay.
But using the walls of your house, if the ceiling is no longer a ceiling of a house, that's called you left your house. So even though this was your house a week ago, this is your house, but no longer is this your ceiling of your house, because what happened was your ceiling is gone. You replaced the ceiling of your house with schach, which sukkah, we know, is connected to the word schach. Schach means the main thing of a sukkah is the schach. The laws of you need walls, but the schach, the ceiling, is the key. That's why there's so many halachot. Meaning, what I mean, the key is there's much more going on of the ceiling than the walls. Many more halachot of a sukkah apply to the ceiling. As long as you have the schach right, you don't have to worry so much about the wall. But the fact that the walls, good morning, was not made for a sukkah does not have. It's not a problem.
Again, if we do the temporary outside Sukkah,
Right.
our place was in the Sukkah, so we want to be like them, yes?
We're commemorating,
Sukkah that she had that wall.
because the main thing of a sukkah to remember is the ceiling of the
Why
sukkah.
did we make it
Because that is the main. The Torah says, "I want you to make a sukkah."
up?
So the Torah says, when the Torah says the sukkah is a schach, that's the main focus of Moni Shimon when the Torah says that you have to make a sukkah. The fact that the walls were pre-made already from a house, that's not a problem. So comes the now, but what's the issue in Mr. Haber's case? The issue in Mr. Haber's case is that if the schach does not come all the way to the walls, and the schach is in the middle, make believe this room, if this would be a one-story house, and here's a wall, there's a wall, we have, let's say it's a 3-wall structure. If we cut out the ceiling, but I did not cut the whole ceiling out, I left some of the ceiling. So now that part of the ceiling that I left is not kosher for schach. But the question is, will that disconnect the schach from the walls? Because the sukkah requires walls. The schach requires walls. But if the walls are not near the schach, if the walls are away from the schach, so then you don't look at the walls that part of the schach. You look at the walls that they're disconnected from the schach, and therefore they're not serving the schach. So that's why in picture number 2 on the bottom in the art scroll, if you look on the sukkah, this is a house, right? You have nice windows in your house, but if you look at the ceiling, you have schach in the middle. But you see part of the roof is still intact. And since part of the roof is still intact, and you have walls, so now the question is, how much am I allowed, how much of the not kosher roof is allowed to be there and still we're going to look at these walls as a serving as walls for the schach. That's what the question of the Mishnah is. And the Mishnah says the following: if you have from the walls, from these walls till the schach, if you have 4 amot of ceiling before you reach your schach, then it disconnects the wall from your schach, and it's not considered that wall is connected to your schach. However, if there is less than 4 amot, and 4 amot could be anywhere from 6 to 8 feet, or 4 amot. 4 amot, let's say around 7 by 7 feet.
Need to take from the wall.
Right. That means if you have this wall, and then you have 7 feet.
This is that street, more.
Right. So let's say you have 7 feet. Here you have kosher schach, and then you have 7 feet of ceiling.
Okay.
So the question is, as long as that wall comes within 7 feet, we will connect the wall to this spot. Why? There's a rule called Dofen Akuma. We say that the wall turns. Mr. Hayden was talking about that before. We look at it as if the wall and the schach come exactly to this space where the schach is. So we have this rule that there's a special halacha l'Moshe Missinai that a wall we could take, if you have a not kosher schach on top and you have a wall over here, we can move it. We can move. We have not kosher schach here, kosher schach here, and we have a wall over here. So as long as this space is within 4 amot of this wall, we'll move it like that. We'll move, the wall turns, and the wall turns. So therefore now the wall has come to the spot of the schach. But the wall moving, that you could say that it moves to that spot, is only if it can only move up to 4 amot. If the not kosher schach is more than 4 amot, the wall won't turn all the way, it won't come to that. If it's less than 4 amot, the wall will come there.
My question, 4 amot for each wall.
Oh, so very good. So in each, depending on how many, where the schach is located, would depend how many walls need to move. In the picture here, we have on all 4 sides, there is ceiling, there is roof, not kosher schach. So therefore, you're going to need the walls to move on all, let's say it's on all the sides here. Then you're going to need the walls to move to connect this wall to the schach. So imagine if here's the kosher schach, and here's the wall, and here's the not kosher schach, it's going to move here. It's going to move here. Each wall is going to move in this situation, because we need each wall to move in this situation, because the schach is not close to any wall. The schach is at a distance. Here's the kosher schach. Here's wall number 1. But here is ceiling, not kosher schach. Here's wall number 2, but there's ceiling here. So therefore, the walls are going to move to the schach. Is that clear, everybody?
But Rabbi, the situation here that you present,
Yes.
it's not existing in the reality. It's not existing in the reality. You have a building that in the middle of the building, in the ceiling, there are hole.
Listen, you're familiar with the buildings that we live today, but you can imagine someone has an old house and the roof, and he took off the roof. Let's say he was afraid that the roof, some part of the roof is falling in. So what does he do? He doesn't want it to fall in. So he says, you know what, this part of the roof I will remove. But then he says, you know what, Sukkah, the holiday of Sukkot is coming. I might as well fill it with schach, and I'll be able to, and I'll be able to sit there. And remember, he has good walls. He's starting with a house that has good walls. And you know what? What do you say? From a lemon, you make lemonade. He took a lemon, he took a house that the roof came in, and now he's making lemonade. What's the lemonade, Simon? He's making a sukkah. He fills it in with schach. So he did a very practical thing with his house before he does the whole roof. He says, you know, I might as well. It's just simple. I'll have an extra sukkah. So that could be the case that the person has. So that's case 2 of the Mishnah. So that's what the Mishnah says. If the house, the roof some of the roof was missing, and and in the hole, the empty space in your roof, you place schach. So the Mishnah states, if from the wall to the kosher schach, there's a distance, the perimeter is a distance of 4 amot, like if from that wall, there's 4 amot of ceiling going like this, the whole width of 4 amot, no good. I can't, what happens is, this wall is no longer connected to this. If there's 4 amot, it's what? But if posula. But if it's less than 4 amot, then we will say that the wall moves. Okay. By the way, if the wall moves, that would mean only you can out of the top. It's like that wall here, you can't see over there, because that's not considered. It's not on the top part of the sukkah. The sukkah now has a new wall with a different roof over here. The Mishnah then continues. V'chein, case 3. Chotzer shimukefet asadra. If you have a courtyard which is surrounded with porches, if you look at the picture on number 3, you see number 3. You see, you have this in the middle, this empty space. That's a courtyard. Okay. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. We're on 17a Chodesh Tov. We are on Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. You see that courtyard, that empty space in the middle on the 17a1 on the right picture. Number 4. Ariel, you got it? Number 4. That inside that empty space is courtyard. Courtyard is a shared space for the houses to use. The houses open up to the courtyard. So you see, let's say the houses on the house on the right, a house in the back, Mr. Haber, you see that picture? There's a house on the left. So we have the houses open up the courtyard, and they made porches. You know, they made this porch over, you know, each now maybe the purpose of the porch was to block the sun. I don't know. The rain. So they made, it doesn't look like, I don't know that, it doesn't look like this, that the house opens up into the porch, that you go onto the porch, but this is an overhead, whatever you call it, and they have this coming out of the houses. Now that's not kosher schach. That's not made for, wasn't made for sukkah. It was made as part of this extension of a house. So that we got invalid schach over there. And then what did you do? You have this courtyard, and now you went ahead and you placed and you filled it up. Let's see. If you have this courtyard which has these porches, and then you place schach from one porch to the other porch. So imagine you see this, the porch on the right, the porch on the left, that's the overhead, and you filled it with schach running across. Yeah. So now you have so now the question is, can I sit in the middle? I want to go into the courtyard. We're going to have sukkah in the courtyard. Can I sit in the courtyard now that I have covered the courtyard with a ceiling of schach? But the issue is, where are my walls? My walls are on my right, my left, and the back. But what's the issue? But there's this porch that what happens is first I have the leg, and then after the porch. So now, in order for the wall to be connected, in order for that wall to be connected to the schach, the porch can't be 4 amot coming out of the wall. If this porch, that's protruding, then the picture's number 4, is coming 4 amot, if 7 feet, if that porch is a 7-foot ledge, so then that wall will not be able to connect to my schach that's in the middle. But you understand? Because it's too much not kosher. The wall will not move. The wall, since what's adjacent to the wall is not kosher schach, the wall can't move for only moves up to 4 amot. So that's the case in case number 3. I have a nice picture, I think, in this. I think in this Gemara, I think there's a nice picture with the fill-in of how they filled in the space with the schach. Let's take a look at the picture. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? You see this picture? I don't know if you can see it. You see over here, they filled in the schach. Here's the port, but they filled in. You see over here, everybody? This is the portion, and now they filled in the space with kosher schach. But the issue here is how much for this wall to connect to here has to be with the overlay has to be within 7 feet of this wall. If the overlay, if this ledge was more than 7 feet from the wall, we can't connect this wall to this. 4 feet. 4 amot. Right. So 4 amot is around 7 feet. Like they say, how much the size of a room to put up a mezuzah. Not all a room that's too small does not require a mezuzah. So what's the size of a room that requires a mezuzah? So a room that's dalet amot by dalet amot, a room that's 4 amot, about 7 feet by 7 feet. That type of room would require or if it's a total of 7 feet by 7 feet. Even if one direction it's not 7 feet, but the total of it would be 7 feet by 7 feet, that also we would put up a mezuzah. So that is yes, we had that in our Gemara earlier about a house, dalet amot by dalet amot requiring mezuzah. And this idea also about the wall. Yes. About what? About the wall with the movement and the kosher. Yes, we had this early in the Gemara as well.
Robert, can we see the picture?
Yes.
Yes.
Take a look at the picture. See how clear it comes out in this. Here is the porch. You see, this
So
porch
that
is not
space
kosher.
has to be the space has to be less than 4 tefachim.
That means the space of the porch, the width of the porch, it's 4 amot. The width of the porch, this porch, if it comes out 7 feet, that means then there's going to be too much space. We're not going to be able to move this wall. This wall, but if it's less, then the wall would move. Okay? That's what the Gemara is saying. You need to now. The Mishnah continues. Sukkah gedola. What about if you have a very large sukkah? No, you can't sit under the porch because the porch, what happens is if this is the porch, right? Let's say this is the porch, it's not kosher schach. Here is kosher schach. Here is the wall. It's like the wall is over here. So this spot is like the back of the wall. You can't sit there. Right. It cannot. Right. It's all like wall, exactly. Now the Mishnah continues. Sukkah gedola shekifua b'dava she'im mesachim bo. If let's say you have a large sukkah, and what you did is you placed not kosher schach on the perimeters of the not kosher sukkah. Look at maybe picture 6 on the bottom, right? So you have a very large sukkah, right? But you place not kosher schach. Now we're going to see what's the difference. The Gemara is going to identify what's the difference between the case of the porch and this case, right? Because the porch is also not kosher schach, correct? The overhead case, case number 4. Case number 4 is that porch that comes out from the walls is also not kosher tzchach, right? So what's the difference between the case of the porch that's coming out from the walls that you told me that, it all depends how far the porch goes out. As long as the porch is within 4 amot of the wall, it's good. So we're saying the same thing. We're saying how of another case. What's the other case? You see, the porch, the Gemara is going to say, the porch could be materials that, a type of material that you could have used for schach. You see, there's two types of materials. There is material that is used for schach. There's materials that you have the potential to use for schach, but you're not using for schach, right? For instance, let's say you made a ceiling. You made the house, right? I'm good. Yeah. You made a house. Thank you very much. But then it's gonna block a little bit.
No, it's not.
I can't see.
It's fine.
Good. That's good. It's no problem. I'm good. If you make the schach, there's certain materials that are kosher for schach. Not in the materials, but the problem is the way you made it was not kosher. You built it for a house. You built the ceiling. You built this as potential. There's certain materials that have potential to be used for schach. Used it for thank you, Ariel. Used it for something else. So that's no good. A house ceiling, if you take materials that are kosher for a house, you go. Why not? Because the roof was not made for a sukkah. So a house that you live in year long, and you make a sukkah for that, that's invalid, correct? But then you have but it was not made. It was made for a house. But then you take a sukkah, then it's good. You tend to make it for a house. For sukkah, it's good. But what about if you have a situation where you have material not grow from the ground? One of the things we said was that in order for some to originate from the ground, it has to be detached from the ground. It has to originate. Something that did not originate from the ground. Let's say you took sheepskin, okay, from the animal, and you made it as and you placed it as stock, right? That had no type of, you could have two types of ceilings that are not kosher. House ceiling, or two, even if it was made for a sukkah, but there's something inherently wrong with the material sukkah. Is that clear? So this case of the Mishnah is the case when you have this type of material, that this material was not able to be ever Sukkah Gedolah, you have a large sukkah, shekifua b'davar she'im misachem bo. That what you did was, I built the walls of a sukkah. But on the perimeters, I put materials that are not kosher for schach. The guy didn't know. He thought, as long as the middle of the sukkah has kosher schach, I'll put on the perimeters things that are not kosher. Maybe he felt it'll hold it better or whatever it is. So you put materials. Let's say he put metal. Let's say he put metal. He want an iron. He put iron on the perimeters on the outside of the morning mag. On the outside, like the picture we spoke before, on those corners of the ceiling were metal, and in the middle was kosher schach. So now the question is, morning mass, can we connect the walls to the kosher schach when you have in between the kosher schach and the wall, you got this metal. So therefore, what do we say? The same story. It depends. Would the wall, there's something called as the world turns. I think there's something expression. The world turning.
The world turn.
Is there such an expression now? Here's the wall turning. So it's the same thing. Will that wall turn? So that wall will turn and move to the kosher schach, provided that metal, that not kosher schach that's on the perimeters, is within. Does not take up more than up to 4. It takes up 4 amot, no good. It's within 4 amot. If that metal that's surrounding the perimeters is not more than is less than 7 feet of that metal wide, then the wall will move, and the wall will move, and then the wall will move to the space, to the part where your schach begins, and then you will have a kosher sukkah. So that's a new case of the Mishnah that's telling us the same idea. And again, the Gemara is going to jump. What the Gemara is going to do tomorrow, we'll see. The Gemara is going to ask, why do I need all 3 cases? Right? Case, Mr. Habel, law, reason. Every time you tell me a case, if you can tell me case once or law once, you won't tell me 3 cases. Like sometimes the Gemara says, our Tana is not a peddler. A peddler who peddles merchandise will show you all the different materials that he has. He'll show you, I got this to sell, I got this item, that item, that item. We're not a peddler. We tell you one thing. If we can figure the rest out, I don't need to tell you an apple, an orange, a pear, a date, that bracha is born create. The Mishnah doesn't have to name all fruits of a tree and tell me and give a listing of 100 fruits and say, and name these 100 fruits and say, these 100 fruits of a tree you make a born create. That's not what the Mishnah did, right? We learned Gemara Brachot, everybody, right? What does the Mishnah say? Al payroll to Ilan. On the fruits of a tree, you say a born create. That's it. I don't got to tell you 1,000 cases of fruits of a tree. I tell you a general thing and you can figure it all out. So why do I need to have these 3 cases of the Mishnah? Why do I need to have the case of that porch that was extending, which is not kosher? It's not, you can't use the porch, it's kosher. So last morning, Jake. What do I need that case of the porch? Why do I need the case of the not kosher schach? Porch is not kosher for schach, the not kosher material is not kosher for schach. What's the difference? And also, what do I need the case of? And I have another case of the empty space, right? I have empty space of, the 3 tfachim of empty space. You told me that case as well. So the Gemara is going to discuss all of these cases. Let's continue it in the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, Sukkah gedolah shekifur b'dova she'misachin gabo. A sukkah gedolah, a great sukkah that you surrounded with something that you can't use as schach, right? You had a big sukkah, but the perimeters had something that's not kosher for schach, right? You place at the corners, all that side, each on the ends of the ceiling, were items that are not kosher for schach. So what does the Gemara say? If there's 4 amot, good morning, Chodesh Tov. If there's 4 amot from the corner to the kosher schach, stula, it's invalid. But if it's less than 4 amot, then we say it is what? It is kosher that the wall turns. And like we said before, then you only can start sitting only up, starting where the kosher schach begins. So now the Gemara says, Kol Hani Lamun. That's the first question of the Gemara. Why do we need these three cases, really it's starting not with the case of the avir. The case of the empty space, the Gemara is not asking that. That's the big chidush. That if you have 3 tefah of empty space, it's a small area, 9 to 12 inches of empty space on that wall. So the schach, not 7 feet of not kosher schach, just a mere space of empty space of 3 tvachim. That will knock out that wall. That wall is not connected. That's a big chidush. You only have if you have in that corner or this corner. If we have going across a width of empty space of 3 tvachim, if over here, if here's the sukkah, here's the schach, and right here is empty space from the wall of 3 tvachim empty space going along, that will knock out the wall. You would lose that wall. That will disconnect the wall. Fine. That we understand is a big chidush. But the question is, what do I need the 3 cases? Case 1, a house where the ceiling came in, and you move and you put schach to fill in the gap of that empty ceiling. And case 2 that the Mishnah said, when you have the porch situation, and you filled in the courtyard top with schach, but there was a certain amount of porch that is coming from the wall. And case 3, a large sukkah that you place not kosher schach at the ends of. So those are the 3 cases that the Gemara said. What do we need 3 cases? And we'll continue tomorrow. It's already 7:26. I want to wish everyone a Chodesh Tov. We want to welcome back Ariel Maiman from the Holy Land. All the best, everyone. Chodesh Tov. Everyone remember the Alev Yavo. Thank you, Mr. Betesh. All the best.